Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll discuss about the counseling. Introduction to counseling means what do you mean by counseling? We are talking about counseling is basically the process of providing guidance, or we can say a support or an advice to an individual who is facing the psychological or personal kind of challenge, because it involves in creating a safe and empathetic space for clients to explore their thoughts and feelings. A person, an individual who is facing, or we can say struggling with the challenges, not able to cope up with that particular obstacle which he or she finds in front of her or him. So that particular individual requires a counseling, and that particular process is known as counseling. So what are the approaches of counseling, which is very important? There are generally three approaches to counseling. Before start counseling, you have to analyze what type of approach you have to deal with. First one is psychoanalytical approach, second one is the humanistic approach, and third one is cognitive behavioral approach. The first approach, which we used to call psychoanalytic approach, what does it mean? Basically, this approach delivers to the unconscious mind and past experiences to understand present behavior in emotional struggle. Just like if some individual lost his or her family member, or we can say have faced a very bad experience in the past, not able to control his or her feelings, and doing a very struggle in emotions, or we can say not able to live his life happily and continuously weeping, that could be the cause. So psychological, he or she is imbalanced, or that type of person on an individual requires a counseling, and that particular approach which a counselor should use, that particular approach is known as psychoanalytic approach. Another approach in counseling, which is very famous, that is known as humanistic approach. What does it mean? Humanistic approach basically focus on individuals' potential, what or she can do, have potential in excelling in their career. You have to make them realize what or he or she can do, to make them understand, to make them self-aware, to make them improved in self-respect, in self-acknowledgement. That is the main focus of this kind of approach. What are their strengths? How they can explore the career opportunities according to their strengths. This type of approach and counseling is known as humanistic approach counseling. Another one is cognitive behavioral approach. It targets changing negative pattern of thinking, means of some individual is thinking pessimistic in his or her life. He used to see the things in a very negative manner. He is not in his senses. His mental health is not proper. He is not emotionally stable. He is very pessimistic, means not thinking about the positive things. Then, through counseling, you have to change his thinking pattern. You have to make them realize there are several positive things in life, and you have to understand this particular thing very deeply. You have to change his thinking pattern. This type of approach is known as cognitive behavioral approach. Before starting a counseling, you have to set certain goals. And what it is all about? The first goal which a counselor should set before starting a counseling, that is empowerment. You have to assist individual to recognize what are their strengths and abilities to overcome challenges. Means doing very positive talks with that particular individual who is not emotionally stable. Try to just recall that particular individuals are the things which he or she achieved in life till yet, till this journey. Means talking positively, make them understand, yes, he or she is having certain very good things which others have not. Second one is self exploration, to make them realize, your client to understand their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in a very deep manner. Means, secondly, you have to make them realize, you have to make them understand, you have to make them think that there are certain things which you have to understand and think in a very deep manner. And third goal which every counselor should have, that is the improved well-being. Means you have to support the overall development of that particular individual as a personality, as an individual, so that he or she can enjoy life. Means emotional balance and emotional intelligence should be there. Then what is the process of counseling? Means step by step you have to follow the four steps. As a counselor, first of all, you have to assess what that particular individual requires immediately. What are their needs, their strengths, their challenges, their obstacles, why that particular individual is struggling. So first process of counseling, first step is about the assessment. Second one is the goal setting, which we have already discussed in the previous slide. Means you have to collaboratively establish some desired outcomes after this counseling session. Third is intervention, means you have to intervene. You have to utilize your counseling techniques and strategies to address the particular individual concerns. Means out of these, which we have discussed in the previous slide, which particular type of counseling technique you have to use, you have to intervene in that particular individual's personal problems. How far you can intervene, how you can make them realize that your strengths are this one and your problems are this one, how you can make a balance between these two things. And last one is review and termination. You have to evaluate the progress of this counseling. If after some sessions you are thinking, yes, that particular individual has not changed his behavior till yet after so many counseling sessions, so you have to make them realize, being a counselor, that now this is a time you have to change your counseling technique. If everything goes well, you can continue with that. That is the last process of counseling: review and termination. Review, if you are going well, you can go ahead. If you're not going well, you can terminate that approach and immediately you can start another one. Counseling procedures means you have to make that individual realize that you can make them understand that that particular individual can trust you. You have to win the confidentiality of that particular person. You have to create a safe and private environment so that that particular individual can share his or her deep inner and very secret feelings with you. You have to win the confidentiality of that particular individual. Second one is the active listening. A counselor should actively listen first what that individual wants to tell you in a very deep manner. As a friend, you have to win the trust. And third one is the empathy and understanding. Means you have to express empathy, of course, offering without judging that individual firstly. You have to offering non-judgmental support to the client. Last one is empathy and understand. You have to make them realize, I am your true friend, and without judging you and your personality, I can offer you a support. Counseling skills are, as an individual, as a counselor, if you're doing your counseling for your organization, the very first thing which you should have, that is the effective communication. You should know how the problem solving technique you can encompass in you. You can just do the solution of the problem, because you know, as a counselor, you have done several miracles till now. And you have to just do the self inquiry, means encouraging reflection and personal insights during counseling sessions. You have to just do what are the things which I have done very good in the previous session, and what are the things which I should not do. You have to make them understand that as a counselor, I have to learn a lot. So, on a continuous manner, you have to just do certain changes in you as a counselor. And you have to add on the new techniques, which are the as the time changes, new techniques are just keep on coming. You have to make some changes. You have to just keep on learning as a counselor. So, as an organizational aspect of counseling, you have to professionally develop yourself as a personality, and you have to continuously enhancing skills and knowledge to provide effective counseling services to the organization. And there are some ethics, there are some guidelines, there are some standards. Being a counselor, you have to follow that very strictly. And the last one is, you have to document and keep the record of every counseling session that could be needed in future at any point of time. So whatever counseling session you are doing for the organizational point of view, of an individual, you have to make them documented. You have to keep the record. If possible, try to put a record without showing that particular individual that you are doing a video recording or you're just taking a notes. You have to just save those notes for future perspective. You have to maintain records in these type of courses. So at last, in order to conclude, we can say counseling plays a vital role in supporting individuals as they navigate life's challenges, fostering personal growth and mental well-being. You have to do miracles as an organizational counselor if you know how to do the counseling in a very phased manner. Thank